Welcome to Fiction Authors Talk Books, or Fat Books podcast. This episode, I'm talking with the darling Ivy Asher about a little of this and that. I named this podcast Fiction Authors Talk Books because I wanted to incorporate all aspects of being a fiction author in the discussions. Being an author is a stressful job with high expectations from both ourselves and our fans, so this will always be a chill conversation that probably goes off topic most times, but we'll have some fun. If you enjoyed the podcast and would like to see your favorite author on here, send them this link and they can get in touch with us at fatbookspodcast@gmail.com. We take all authors who write fiction and have been published as long as they're polite. Thanks for joining, and on to the podcast.
What are you, Erin? Are you a plotter or pantser? Are you a combo?
Oh, I'm a huge plotter.
Are you? Nice.
Yeah, I'm a plotter.
I am a
Plotters
pantser,
unite.
but I am learning the value of plotting.
So I'm not a typical plotter. Like, I don't do like outlines and stuff.
Uh-huh.
I have scenes. Like, I list a bunch of scenes in my head, and then I kind of fill in the blanks in the track and the rail lines. But yeah, I'm a plotter. I don't ever sit down and not know what the fuck I'm about to do. Like, I can't.
Right. I always feel
But it's
like I
also part-
know, like I daydream it like a movie in my head. So it's like I know what
Yes.
it's going to look like. And I always know my beginning and I always know exactly where I'm going to end. But then
Yes.
when you sit down at the computer for me is when I just like fucking go for it. So maybe I am more combo than I realize.
Yeah, you sound more combo. Do you have beta readers?
How I work. So we call each other betas, but really we're like alphas, I think. So the only people who read my stuff is Raven Kennedy and Ann Denton, my two best friends. And we all read for each other. And that's it.
Yeah, I used to do that with some authors too.
Yeah. So we read for each other. With Order of Scorpions, I do think I asked another friend who is like in the book world but not an author to just read it and let me know what they thought, because with Order of Scorpions it was so big that Anne and Raven read it kind of like in chunks, so it was harder. I wanted to make sure that the story in its entirety from start to finish felt like, you know, seamless and complete. And because Raven and Anne read it kind of like in little increments, they were like, well, I think it's okay, but like, you know, I read the middle part 3 months after the first, you know, that sort of thing. So I did have somebody else read for me. And that was the first time I'd had someone outside of Raven and Anne do it. And it was helpful. It was valuable. She picked up on some things, you know, that hadn't been picked up on before because things were read separately. But so I just have Raven and Anne, and that's how I've always done it, and I trust them, and they always give me great feedback about things, and I trust their writing and how they view a story and stuff like that. But I've never done anything beyond that. I've been really lucky in the sense that the three of us came up together and we're all super, super close and super, super supportive, because I don't think that's normal. Or at least I don't know any other authors outside of like the three of us, of people who have like a proper author posse where everyone's like super supportive and good with each other. I think it's rare.
Well, it is rarer, yeah. I've had a few, but like I know a few that I've talked with now that have, you know, author cliques that they get along with and their buddies. You're gonna find more that try and sabotage you than like you can be besties with.
Met them.
Haven't we all? Yeah, haven't we all? There'll be more that resurface. They're
Let's
always
be
around.
honest, they might even be the same people. Let's keep it real. Like our social circle in the indie, you know, RH, paranormal, like it's not so big.
It is, but it isn't, and it's super vicious at times. Yeah. It's funny though, because you were talking about how important it is to like have a ride or die friend that's an author.
Oh my God, yes.
You know, I had a lot of author friends and my head was always in the space. It's been actually somewhat mentally healthier for me to have more friends not in the space.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying, I have a friend that I walk with every day, and I was telling her about all my fears of Artemis and like, I'm so scared what do I do after, and what if they hate this next one, and and she's like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, excuse me? And she's like, you're being stupid. I'm like, okay, I'm not debating that I can be stupid. Could you please elaborate like why you're saying this? Yes, please elaborate why I'm stupid. Yeah. And she's like, so you've had like this huge selling, you know, thing. It vaulted your career into a different path. You hit a new level. That's awesome. She's like, why do you think that that's the end?
Right.
She's like, "Did you hit, like, 75 and I missed it?" She's like, "Your career is gonna have, multiple peaks and, like, keep going up and up." She's like,
100%.
"How do you know this next series isn't gonna make Artemis look like a joke?" And
Right.
I was like, "It never crossed." I mean, I'm not kidding you, Ivy, it never crossed my mind that this next series could actually be bigger.
We condition ourselves not to get too excited because you just never fucking know.
Yeah, and it's devastating when something doesn't hit.
Right.
It's devastating when when one of your books doesn't do as well as the other.
Uh-huh.
It really is.
Right.
I've had series that I just like somebody was like, "Oh, how come you're not doing more of these?" And I've been very honest. I'm like, "'Cause 4 people bought them."
Right.
Like, that's why there are no
'Cause
more
nobody is reading that.
because it costs
Yeah.
more to edit the book and make the cover
Yeah.
than it yeah.
Then
But
I'm
yeah,
like,
she was like, "You're an idiot. Why?" She's like, "You're being stupid. Why are you saying that you hope this book will do almost as well as Artemis?
mhm.
Why aren't you saying this series is going to be bigger than Artemis?" And I'm like,
Yes.
I don't think my mind can like
No.
understand it
No,
being bigger than
I get that.
Artemis.
I think you just can't. Well, especially like with having done this for as long as you have and watched like the highs and the lows, and
Yeah.
experienced the peaks and the valleys and all the shit and amazing fucking shit that can come with them. You just, because there's so much uncertainty in kind of everything that we put out there, I just think, yeah, our brain can't process that everything's going to be amazing. Like we just can't think that.
Well, unless we're narcissists or psychopaths,
Right, unless
yeah.
there's some sort of, unhinged aspect of you, and if that's working for you, yay, for your unhinged aspect. But, like, for a lot of people, that
Just
is
keep it away from me. Keep the
Right.
unhinged away from me.
Like, you can't just assume that everything's gonna be the next bestseller, because then if it doesn't happen.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's devastating, but it's like
Yeah.
you get to a certain high and you're like, I can't imagine what it would be next. I mean, yes,
Right.
you see authors bigger than you.
Yeah.
You see what it is for them, but it's
Uh-huh.
like, I don't know. You have to be honest with yourself about who you are.
Yes.
And we're a bit sensitive as artists. I mean,
Agreed.
we're not
100%.
I don't think we're, artsy fartsy. That's such a bad way to say. It's like you've got to be artist, you've got to be business, you've got to be all of these things. And like
Mhm.
I've had to come to terms with the fact that, and it's going to sound I don't know, it's hard to say, but I've had to come to terms with the fact that I'm a sensitive person. Like if you look at the profile of what a sensitive
Yeah.
person is, besides violence in videos and movies and books, I hit all of it. I have a heart. I
Same.
feel very empathetic with people. I thrive in calm. I like the list of like 6
Mhm.
characterizations besides blood and guts in movies because I don't care, blow them all up. I've had
Mhm.
characters rip each other's arms off, like whatever. Apparently I'm desensitized to the violence part, but the rest of it, it's just yeah, I'm a weirdo. What can I say?
No, I'm the same way. I'm exactly the same way.
Yeah,
I write very violent scenes and picture them in my head with
yeah.
absolutely zero problem. But if I saw a stranger crying in the street, I would immediately start crying with
See, I'm
them.
not
Like
much of a
it's not,
crier,
I
but
get it.
I cry when I'm super super pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one thing that even for my mental health, I told people back after the death threat, before that was before Halloween, and I posted about it several times, and I was like, and I even put in author's notes in the books and everything. I was like, look, I need you guys to back off. I know everybody wants more Artemis. I know everybody's excited for the next release. I need you to stop asking me for it. I need everybody
Mhm.
to stop being like, what's next? What are we getting? Where, or especially on I hate when you post the
Mhm.
release
Mhm.
and it's like, hey, here's a new book. I've been working hard on this. Here you go. And somebody's like, I don't like this series. When's the next Seraphine coming? It's like, fuck you. Just fuck you. This is what you get, and you will like it, or like this is what I made for dinner. You will eat it.
No, for real. I feel like sometimes with releases, I morph into like some boomer mom who is like, "You'll
Yeah.
eat it or you'll starve," kind
The
of.
one time I was like, I did a Taylor Swift like, oh, Taylor's not home right now. She's dead. They're like, when can we expect a Seraphine? I'm like, you can't. She's dead. I was being a sarcastic Chicagoan. I had to tell everybody to just back off. Like seriously back off because I
Mhm.
don't do well in the what's next, how much longer? And mostly
Yeah.
mostly the most hardcore gimme, 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 gimme fans have listened, and I've been having more like constant 1 a month releases so far this year and scheduled, and I'm keeping to writing a book a month. And people are like, wow, did that really help? I'm like, yeah, so leave your authors alone. Not just me,
Awesome.
leave all of your authors alone.
I'm currently dealing with a very similar situation, and it's such a fine line between being so fucking grateful. Oh my God, like so fucking grateful for readers picking up books and being interested and wanting more. Like just there's not enough thank yous or love in the fucking world for me to really like portray how grateful I am for that shit. And there's another side of it too, where there's a lot of fucking pressure. And I don't want to disappoint anyone. And I know that they're waiting and I feel fucking horrible for moving things around. But it is what it is. And like I feel awful. And at the same time, like there's so much pressure and it can be just so overwhelming and drown out everything. Like I have been working on the third series in the Sentinel world. It's the one that's going to tie Vinna and Fallon, who's in the second series, Shadowed Wings. It's going to tie all of them together into what I've called a sept, which is like the group of Sentinels who are going to be badass and do shit. So I have been taking my fucking time writing this, which for me, like normally I am publishing like every 3 months is what I was doing kind of in the beginning. I slowed down a fuck ton last year because I was working on a standalone, which ended up just like getting bigger and bigger. It was like the never ending massive book.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
I know you get it. It just kept
I've tried to
getting
do that
bigger.
with trilogies and it turned into Artemis that is 26 books.
A
So,
lot of lessons
I get it.
about that. Yeah. I had convinced myself that like a big ass standalone was the way to go because then people weren't waiting for next books and everyone's always like saying how they are tired of waiting for series and stuff. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to do a big fatty standalone. But I learned that people don't, not everyone likes big fatty books. So I learned some things from that. But I've been working on The Hunt, which is the next book in the Sentinel world. And it's just taking me a long ass time because I've created so many threads in the other two series that I now have to weave together into this new character and this new story and tie things together and bring things to a close. And it's turning out a lot harder than I ever thought it would be to do it in a way that still feels like a good fucking story and not just like boring as fuck. So I had a release date in October for The Hunt and I put my pre-order out a year. I thought for sure. I even told my readers, I was like, it's not going to take me this long to write it. So like, I'm just putting the pre-order out for a year because that's what I'm allowed to do on Amazon. But it'll come out sooner than that.
You go that far in advance? Okay, see, I never put the pre-order up until it's already done with the first round of edits.
Oh yeah, because I made a fucking mistake.
Okay, yes, that's my biggest fear. So I've never done it unless
No.
Okay.
Horrible fucking plan. Horrible plan. You are doing the right thing. I am now going to be doing what you are doing.
So you wish you met me last year is what I'm hearing you say for me to go, don't do that.
All the fucking mistakes with that, all of them. So like, I thought for sure, I'm like, okay, I'm used to putting out like anywhere between 6 to 9 books a year. Like there's absolutely zero chance it's going to take me a long time to get this out. No, it's taking me forever to write it. It's taking me, because this is going to be like the conclusion to these main characters' stories altogether. I have rewritten things more than I've ever rewritten anything in my entire fucking life. And just to get it where I want it to be. So it's just taking forever. Moral of the story, I'm taking effing forever. And so it was supposed to come out in October. So I had Order of Scorpions, which was my big fatty fantasy romance standalone, come out in August. I started to realize that I had made another mistake because I had been releasing and then writing the next book, writing the next book. And I realized that I don't think I I should be doing that with this end part. I feel like I need to write the entire series and then like kind of do like a rapid release between them. And I think that will be the
Yeah.
thing that makes the most sense. So I ended up canceling the pre-order and letting people know that like I'm going to write I have it as I had it as a duo in my head, just 2 books. I now think it's going to have to be 3. And so I've said I'm going to write the whole thing and then I'm going to put them all out like, within weeks of each other. And people have been great, but it's been
Oh, jeez.
that was in October.
That will happen.
We're now
Yeah.
almost in March. We're now almost in March, and people are, on my
Yeah.
social media being like, okay, where is this? I'm getting like probably a handful of emails daily of people asking
Yeah.
where the next book is. And it's like, while I'm so fucking thankful that people give a shit about where it is, at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, I'm taking too long. They're going to start hating me. I don't actually know when I'm going to be done. I thought it was going to be 2 books. I
Yep.
now think it's going to be 3 because it's just they're getting too big. And then at the same time, I'm also writing other things. And there's potential that the other things that I'm working on might be done before I'm done with the next Sentinel books. And I've dug myself like it's like a good problem to have, but like it's still a overwhelming problem to have.
Well, you can have a dream job and the working conditions aren't
Yeah.
ideal.
You can still have like a what the fuck moments.
I've had people be like, "You sound so ungrateful." I'm like, "I am 100% grateful, but that doesn't mean that I'm ever gonna let people abuse me or treat me less than I deserve."
Right.
There's
It
a
can still
difference.
be
Yeah.
a struggle.
You can
Yes, I
you
agree completely.
you can be the most bestest singer in the world or whatever else, and at the top of the living the dream, and your manager is stealing your money or all the horrors.
Right.
Just because it's a dream
Yes.
job doesn't mean that everything works out. So
Yes.
very happy that I made this change and said, look, everybody needs to back off. Everybody, and in general, like 99% of people have. And I was
Right.
very honest
Yeah.
about it. And I no longer am saying what I'm working on next. I'm just saying this
Right.
is done in
Yep.
an editing. And it has been a
Yep.
huge help. It really has.
Right.
So
Yeah. That's smart.
unfortunately only took me 13 years to figure that out, fucking out, but you know.
No, it's like, well, I'm just like, I don't think I can release any books before I put Sentinel out, or I feel like they're gonna come for me with pitchforks. So it's like the worry of like, okay, are they gonna fucking just rip me apart if I am putting out other books before Sentinel's done? Even though I am working on it, I'm really doing my best to get it, ready and to the level that it needs to be in order to honor the other 2 series, but like there's so much more work that goes into wrapping things up than there is to writing new things. And it's just a different dynamic and set of skills and like, making sure that I'm fact checking, like everything that I'm doing so that I'm not fucking up the plots that the other books that I've already written.
My advice would be to be honest on that you want it done right, not done when everybody wants it, and just tell them, because a lot of people just want an update. And then they can know, okay, it's going to be 6 more months. It's going to be this more months, or
Very true.
and I mean, if they're not willing to give you that time, or they're not willing to take your emotional and mental health, and are they really a fan, and do you really care at that point?
So true. And I think for me, it's oftentimes my own head and not
Yes.
the reality of what I actually experience with my readers. Because I will say that there have been other times where like I've had to push back deadlines or things have happened, and
Yep.
I don't talk a lot about like, my life or what happens like in the background, but like shit goes down. And you got to make changes and pivot or whatever. And I will say that every time I'm like fucking terrified to be like, guys, I'm pushing this back, or guys, I'm changing this, or just fucking not meeting their expectations. Basically, they always meet me with like just patience and kindness and just grace and support. So I think it's more a me.
Even what you're saying, even if I was just a fan and what you're saying, I would be like, dude, take a breath, take your time. I want it done right, not just done, because there's nothing worse that will ruin an ending than rushing to get it. But no, I mean, you're gonna get 1 or 2 people who are complete jerks about it, like I did when I
Right.
said I needed to take a step back, which was really funny because other fans jumped all over them and were like, "You're an asshole, leave her alone." I was like,
You're like, the posse's gonna come for you. I'm really sorry about that, but also be nice. Please.
yeah, I was like, didn't expect it. I was waiting for people to bring out the pitchforks and be
Right.
like, "I don't care that somebody threatened your life. I want Artemis now."
Yeah.
And people were like, "Take a break. We'll be here. We love you. What do you need? Do you want snacks? I'll come walk Vader."
Oh,
And I'm just
isn't that,
like,
like, amazing? Because I have to say, like, every time I'm, like, sure that they're gonna be like, "Alright, we're never reading you again because you're taking too
"You're
long
not
for this
worth it."
shit."
Yeah.
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 Like,
There are other authors out there. I don't love you this
right,
much.
and
Yeah.
then instead they're like, "We got you, it's all good," and you're like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I'm an idiot." Why do we build it up in our heads that, like, they're going to just, I don't know.
Abandon us.
Yeah, like, for
We
any
all every author has
I was like, "Is
abandonment
that
issues for
my
real.
childhood trauma coming out? Like, why do
Yeah.
I do this?" Where I'm just like, "They're gonna hate
Bad
me."
boyfriends in college or something. Yeah, it's something, but
For real, and then I finally get the courage to be like, "Alright, guys, well, I fucked up and I'm changing things," and then they're like, "Alright."
as your outside voice new friend, here's your smack upside the head, just tell the peeps and let them comfort you into saying, "We want the best, we want your best, not just whatever you will get it done fastest." So that's your
Yeah.
wake up smack from your new friend being like, "Just tell them." It's the easiest smack you'll ever have because 'cause I'm not in your vicinity.
It definitely goes down a lot smoother than some of the
Oh my
hits I've taken
god,
in this
because they
industry
hit
for sure.
hard. Those hits hit hard.
There's a whole fucking
Mhm.
world out there of, like, hits that you take on the chin over and over and over again until you, like,
Yeah.
go crazy. And, like, yeah,
Oh god.
the never-ending bombardment of people wanting your secrets
Yep,
or to know what you're doing here or who are
yep.
you working with or can you come into my group and do this or I've got book boxes or whatever. It's like one of those things where it's like all good problems to
But
have,
yeah,
but all
but
aspects of
yeah.
the industry that take up time and attention and and can
Mhm.
bite you in the ass depending upon
Yep,
who you're working with. Um, but yeah, it's just like
yep.
it's a whole
No, I totally
thing.
get it. I have a Discord group, and I've had people be like, "You're a horrible person for not allowing people to post about other authors in there." I said, "Look, I don't know their content. I'm not getting involved in that." I had somebody come in and I've done it before. I had a Facebook group and somebody came and promoted in, and then I found out later that it was a book about grooming and, like, underage.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and people
Yeah,
were all up in arms against me because I was promoting this person. I'm like, "Dude," like so
I didn't fucking know.
I just
Yeah.
yeah, I take the stance of like, "Look, I know you see other people. That's fine. We're in an open relationship, but this is my house and don't bring them up in here." Like, it's just safer and easier and everybody can have a fun time about not I mean, we talk on my group a lot about not books.
Yeah.
Like, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We're here because of the books. There's a spoilers channel or whatever, but like, it's just not it doesn't have to always be all books all day, all night.
It's so hard because there's like the creative side of what we do and then there's the business side of what we do and they're not always besties.
It's almost like picking your favorite kid.
It really is. Yes. And the thing that I've also learned in doing this is that so in the beginning, when Sentinel took off, you get a little bit of an ego. You get a little bit of a like, oh,
Oh, for
I
sure.
got this. This is my first book. This is my first series. People are giving me such great feedback. Like, I got this author thing. Like, I am all over this. And get, you sort of think that the reader is there for you as a person. And I learned very quickly that the reader is there for the character and they are there for the story. Will like you and be like, all right, cool, you're cool. I'll read your stuff because you are who
Yeah.
you are. But the majority, that's not the vibe. They're here for the character that they
Or the genre.
agree. Like, so, and it's a different ball game. And it's, to me, it's no longer I love this author and will read absolutely everything that they write because of the author, as opposed to I love this character and if you give me more like this, I will stick with you kind of vibe.
Yeah. I have a lot that will only read the reverse harem paranormal
Yeah.
college one,
Mhm.
and they will not step out that lane. And that's fine if that's
Mhm.
what you want.
Yeah.
I mean, I read what you want. Our time is limited, our free time is limited. You do you, boo. It's just terrifying as an author. Like if I didn't already have stuff written and lined up,
Right.
or maybe they won't like the one that I decide. So I have three different ones that I have ideas for or something already written for the same genre of Artemis after Artemis.
Mhm.
And one is a little bit, it's she's a vampire, she's not a fairy, she's this, she's not that, but she comes from more the, abused foster care system background. So I
Mhm.
went the other direction, but with the other one that I've decided is next, but like Bevan is so different from Tamsin.
Uh-huh.
Like polar opposite that it's terrifying. I
Uh-huh.
think Bevan's awesome.
Uh-huh.
Bevan to me is like, do you ever like you know the old cliche kind of I'm a pretty blonde with big breasts and I just coast through everything and
Right.
people men
Yeah.
men do things for me.
Yeah.
She is
Pretty
in a way
privileged. Yeah.
she's yeah, pretty privileged, exactly. She is like that, but she's in the book knowing she's like that. Like she's got the self like she doesn't just accept it. She's always down on herself like how do I get better so I'm not just being rescued all the time.
Right. Love it.
That's where she starts and she's very aware that she's not a bimbo, she's smart, but she's lacking. She needs to catch up and she's getting rescued cuz she's pretty. Like that's her she knows that she's the cliche
Uh-huh.
and that's very different from Tamsin.
Mhm.
So even if it's a paranormal college reverse harem, it's totally different. And I'm
Right.
like, it's God, is it terrifying?
It's so hard because you want to well, and I think then becomes the battle of finding balance between writing what you think readers want.
Yeah, I never do that. I always just write what I want to read. And some things fail.
I felt the pressure after Sentinel did well to, like, to just keep doing something similar and, like, kind of, so to speak, ride that train, I guess there's really not a better description for that. Yeah, I just felt the pressure to, like, keep giving readers what they clearly wanted as
Yeah.
opposed to, writing whatever randomly I was interested in that moment. And so it's been an interesting journey for me to try and find like what my real voice was. Like,
Yeah.
ultimately as like an author, it's all terrifying. You never know what a book is going to do. You just never fucking know.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to resonate and not. And so I feel like at this point I just very much have the mentality of I just write the book that I want to read. And that
Yep.
may sound super weird, but I write for
No,
myself.
that is what I actually I mean, I've been doing this almost 13 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, 13 years 13 years ago almost I signed my first contract.
Uh-huh.
So I've had ups and downs and lost everything and had to rebuild everything again. I mean, you're good. It's lucky you got noticed, but you're good to have caught that audience and gotten that popular.
Thank you.
Besides, certain books that made horrible movies, and I'm not picking on Twilight, I'm picking on the other one that was quote unquote, sexy. Besides that bullshit,
Uh-huh.
you can't get popular if it's not good. I don't know what the hell happened with that freak show, but what you got lucky to get noticed. It's nice that you appreciate that. But the rest is your talent. I have the years in that I've said to a lot of newbiers, or you're not a newbie anymore, you have to love what you write. If it's
100%.
inauthentic, you're not going anywhere anyway. And what's the point? Then you're just a sellout doing what you think the peoples want.
Well, I think, when you're new and especially with kind of social media and all of that, it can get so easy to get sucked into a chasing game. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we all have moments of like serious and, crippling imposter syndrome and like trying to really find who you are as an author and what it is about you that like connects with your reader and staying true to that. But like when you are on TikTok and trying to figure out, how to market yourself or Instagram or Facebook, whatever the case may be. It gets super, super easy to see other people doing it better or what looks like
Yeah.
doing it better.
Yeah.
They've got it all figured out. There's an author who I love her work. And she is always posting character art and merch and all of this like amazing next level stuff. And I look at that and I'm just like, I have tried to hire character artists, and the only person who actually showed up to do the work, it didn't go well. It was a very terrifying, like, fey version of Michael Jackson. I don't know what went wrong, but like it wasn't
Yeah.
usable. And then I've hired other artists who don't like show up for the appointment, basically. It's difficult
Yeah.
to get people to.
Nobody will care about your books as much as you do. That's why I do my own covers.
So I see these other people who've got all these like amazing things and they're so good at marketing themselves and they are just next level, always like hyping up the next project. And I'm like, I don't fucking do any of that. So I feel like I'm failing. I feel like, oh my God, I need to be on this level. I need to be doing all of these things. But when you really take a step back and look at it, you're just getting sucked into this super poisonous chasing game and it doesn't serve anyone.
And it normally doesn't outcome to more sales.
No, it's just more stress.
Yeah, and I was doing more videos for character stuff,
Uh-huh.
and I was noticing the amount of attention my social media was getting was going down because I was
Mhm.
putting out so much more, my
Yeah.
message was getting lost.
Yeah, it gets like
And
flooded.
then somebody was completely petty because that happens in our profession
Uh-huh.
and reported me to TikTok. I got permanently banned from TikTok.
No.
Oh, yeah, like, right away. I think it was the
What
first
the
month I
fuck?
started putting up stuff. Yeah, and somebody was like, "Oh, just start again and do it." I'm like, "No, I'm not playing that game.
It's
I'm not."
it's a lot.
But my post, even that poll, I
Mhm.
mean, within that I showed you, like, within an hour, I had, like, 200 people responding.
Mhm.
Sometimes the less you put out, like, not that I'm Beyoncé, but, like, Beyoncé, when she puts something out, everybody listens because she doesn't put much out.
Right.
So I think I tried something different in January. I've tried several different things. I think I'm honestly going back to the way I used to be, a little bit quieter and a little less
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah.
And that way, when I put something else out there or I post something that's going on, people know, oh, new book.
Yeah, they
Oh,
hear
I got
it.
to pay attention.
They
Oh,
see it, yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going back to more reclusive and a little less noise. And just if I find it funny, I find it funny. If Vader does something cute, post a video. But
Yeah.
otherwise, it's about the books for me. And it's easier on me. Like
Yeah.
it's and the podcast is the one thing that I want to keep doing, even if it's not gotten much popularity yet and it's costing a lot more money than it's not making any
Oh, no.
because it's fun. Well,
Yeah.
and that's
For you,
fine.
yeah, it's for you and and ultimately for the readers too. And you never know, like sometimes you can do something and it doesn't immediately hit, but then does
Right.
eventually, and then you're like,
Yep.
oh, okay, fuck, awesome, good, I love that.
Yeah, like my Karma Bakery series. Like at first, two people like seriously bought it, but when Artemis blew up, people went back and looked at certain things,
Yep.
and that's a slower series
Yep.
that picked up momentum and is almost as big as my second series. And it's like, whoa,
Isn't that
how
fucking
did when?
cool? It's
It's so
fucking
bizarre
awesome.
how that happens,
Yeah.
and I think that this is just nice. Like not to be like my podcast is fabulous and it was my idea, but it's just chill. It's not an
Love it. Yeah.
agenda. It's not a interview. It's not the stupid blog post,
Yes.
marketing tours thing.
Yes. Where you're being like pitched something. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And it's not. I mean, I've talked, like once I think that in an episode that's coming up about characters and like, tropes and all that. And like I want to do more of that stuff, but it's nice to kind of just get like what I kind of want to do is just get like a group of like maybe 20 good authors that I vibe with well.
Uh-huh.
And like I've already talked with Maggie Lilly and she's agreed to come back on. And like we can have the next round of conversation and
Love
just get
that.
into something deeper.
Yeah. Well, I think there's so much value in that. And I don't think it's out there. Like, I think there's so much value in what you're doing and just like shooting the shit. And I mean, how often do we get to really all talk to each other and hear about each other's
Not a lot.
experiences? Exactly. There's really no there's nothing out there for us that allows us to do this. Just like have the
Yeah.
conversation and learn about, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the kick ass like going on in each other's things in like such a organic and like genuinely like comfortable and, positive way. Like it just doesn't exist. And I think there's so much value in doing this. And
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wanted it just to be like well, not always. I've seen the actors on actors videos. I think it's Vogue or one of them does, where the actors and they just ask each other questions and
uh,
talk about things that they've been in, and that's what I wanted. We are underrepresented
yeah,
as artists, as authors. A lot of people have ideas about us that
yep.
I couldn't be further from the truth. I don't have voices in my head. I don't have plot bunnies. Like, there's a lot of
Right.
things that people assume. I'm not a freaking nymphomaniac because I write romance. You know,
Right.
I'm not a virgin because I'm hungry for sex. Like all of the ideas that people have about romance authors or authors in
Yeah,
general, it's like I just kind of want to get some of that out of the way and just see that we're normal people and
yeah,
we can tell a story. Like the funniest
right.
thing to me is that I am horrible at grammar. I'm horrible at grammar. There are times that I spell words that Microsoft Word just holds up a sign like what the fuck were
Oh
you
my
trying to
gosh,
say?
same.
Right?
Yes.
And it's like, that's great. I don't need to be. That's what editors are for. I just need to tell you a story.
Yes. Like same. Same.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about grammar and punctuation, and bless my editor's fucking heart because I literally could not do shit without her, and I went through hell to even find her, but she is like the wind beneath my fucking wings. Because I don't know anything about the technical side of things. Now, I've learned as I've gone, and I used to joke that like I would go back to school and take writing classes or something, but now I look back on that, I'm like, I would never do that.
I'm the other side of it where I knew a lot, but I got tied up by so many different
Uh,
editors that I'm scared to place commas sometimes because this one didn't like this or this
yeah.
one with this. I love my editor now too. I've told her several times that if she quits on me, I'm moving to live next door to
No,
her and
like
I'll just
for
cry at her
real.
doorstep all the time because I'm not going
Yeah.
through another
And
editor
finding
thing.
someone who fits you, like it's so subjective because there are different vibes and different ways to edit books and different, yeah, it's just that's a whole thing in its own right. But like I don't
Oh, for
know a
sure.
lot about the technical side of things, but I do know how to tell a story and I do know how to paint a picture and like and I do know that side of things.
Yeah. And so for me, I wanted to get like a new group of friends not from my previous publisher or
Uh-huh.
any previous things, kind of shake it up and start over. And we've had people on that, are at your level or your genre, and I've had ones that are brand new pups and
Uh-huh.
oh gosh, Letty was so adorable on here.
Oh,
She was totally adorable, and I didn't know at first, but she's a fan of mine.
oh, love
She agreed to
that.
come on just to talk to me and be a fan. I
Like,
was
I'm ready
like,
to
"Oh my
figure
god,
out.
you're."
Let's do this.
Yeah, I was like, but it threw me because I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you read my stuff."
Isn't that like the most like nerve-wracking but also like rewarding thing when someone's like, "Oh, I read you," and you're like, "Oh, fuck, did you hate me though?" Or is it
Yeah, right?
okay? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I didn't tell you from the start that I had read one of your books, and then it's also like, "I'm sorry I didn't finish it. I got caught up in my own shit."
No, never apologize for that. I get it.
Well, but then I forgot who else I was talking with the episode. It was so funny in the episode. And I was like, she was like, yeah, there's like 9, 10, 11 guys. I'm like, how the hell do you keep all this straight? I could never do that. And she's like, I've read Seraphine Thomas. I'm like, oh yeah, I do have one like that.
You're like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I did do that."
Like, but yeah, I do have, but they're not all her main guys. Like
Right.
some just are, like moonmates or
Right.
whatever. And she's like, have you read your own books? I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Like, yeah, no, I have done that.
That's hilarious.
Um, Oh my god. But yeah, so I mean, that's just the idea is just let's
I
have some
love that.
fun.
Yeah.
Now you have somebody that, extra like I was going to ask you about you were talking about ads and like, and now
Yeah.
I know who to go to and you
Right?
have somebody for other things and
Yes.
oh, it's just also stressful
Yeah.
though.
There's no one right way or wrong way to literally do anything. And you
No.
start to
Yeah.
learn that, I think, a couple years in. You don't want to get stuck chasing anything, especially if it's not going to do shit for you. And
You're right.
and you just kind of learn to figure out like what's working for you. I felt a lot of pressure to like be more on TikTok or taking advantage of like the newer platforms that, can give you the opportunity to like blow up more.
Yeah.
But I've been really lucky in the sense that, being able to watch Raven's success over the past few years with Plated Prisoner and, selling it to, one of the big houses. And
Oh, wow, she did that? She went
oh,
indie.
girl, yeah, she's like looking at movie deal type shit and just like
Oh, wow.
next
Sorry, I
level,
never heard of her before.
next level. No,
Hard to keep everybody straight.
I bet you've seen the covers. I bet you like on some sort of social media, like if you Google her stuff, you'll be like, oh yeah, that
Mhm.
book, yeah. So I've been really lucky to be able to like be on the sidelines of watching her just blow up to like the next fucking level of all of this and seen the amazing things that have been happening for her, but also sometimes the downside of it as well. But it's been rewarding for me to be like, okay, like I'm good. Like, I am good. I don't feel like I need to be doing more than I am. I feel so fucking lucky and happy and just like good, like with where I'm at. I don't need just, I don't know, wait for me. Like, I don't have to do more than I'm doing. I don't have to like try and figure out how to be an influencer in the book talk world. I don't have to try and figure out the next like big thing because I just like I can't. I don't have the mind for that. I don't have like the
No.
marketing. I just don't. I just want to like tell you a kick-ass story about a character that got me super fucking excited, and I hope that you feel the same way. And if you don't, cool. And if you do, fuck yes, let's hang. And for me,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, just that realization that like I can just do my thing and like it'll be fine. It's
Yeah.
just been like a game changer. And I know it doesn't happen for everybody, and it doesn't always come as quickly as it has for me. When I tell you, like, I've just been fucking beyond lucky, I really have.
Yeah.
But I think anyone who's been in the game for a minute, like, you for sure, and I, and like some of the others out there, like, you just realize that you do what you can do, and it's enough. And that's like a kick-ass feeling when you don't feel like you, I don't know, have to do it differently or any of that shit.
It's not all that great being a trendsetter. Not that I'm fabulous, but I
Right.
started out in male mail when male mail was still looked down upon.
Mm-hmm.
I did this thing with a series, and the names, the titles of the books were just the character names for that coupling.
Right.
Like it was just the main character's name from his perspective, and male male, especially at that time, wasn't first person. So I was one of the first to ever do first person for male male.
Uh-huh.
And it blew up. Like it became this thing where other publishers were using the character names for their book titles, and oh, who's going to do first person? And then they tried to sign me because, I blew up for male male. It's a whole different ball game, and it has a very tighter ceiling or lower
Yeah.
ceiling of what you max out as.
Mm-hmm.
But I did. And then now, years later, so many people now have been like, "Oh, you were one of those who jumped on the bandwagon." I'm like, "Bitch, look at the copyright date. I was the one who did it."
Like, I am the fucking bandwagon. What are you talking about? Like,
Yeah, but it's like one of those things that like I don't want to be the trendsetter again. It
yeah.
bites you in the ass. Would I like a little bit more popularity so I'm more financially stable?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie about that.
Mhm. Twilight for me, I'm not like this Twihard psycho or anything like that,
No.
but
My
um
team was Dr. Cullen, if anything, because
you're like, I was all about
I'm
that guy.
well, yeah, I'm not looking at little Jacob like I was,
Right?
whatever.
I was like batting my eyelashes at Emmett all all the way. Like,
Not a bad choice, absolutely.
but
Yeah.
like, okay, so I read that book in college, and I had kind of gone, I would be a reader and kind of consume books and stories, and then I would die off. Ebooks weren't like a massive thing. I didn't have
Mhm.
access to like, I couldn't afford a e-reader or ebooks or any of that sort of shit. And so for me, like reading was going to Barnes and Noble, having to like look through all of the different sections, trying to find stuff that was appealing, and then like going home and reading. And sometimes it was hit or miss. And when it was
Yeah.
missed, to me, it was devastating because I just spent like $30 on that fucking book and like I
Yeah.
hated it. And there wasn't, or I didn't know that there was, a lot of social media behind series or anything like that. Like before I started writing, I had zero social media presence. Like I just wasn't on it. It wasn't my vibe.
I've been doing this 13 years. There
Mhm.
wasn't all that much social media before
Right.
that. So I have people now in my life that are like, well, what's your Insta? I'm like, I don't have one. They're like, how do you not have Instagram?
Right.
I do as an author, but the people in my
100%.
apartment complex don't know that I'm an author. I don't freaking tell people here. That would be a disaster.
Who do you tell what you really do? Like who
Not
do you trust
I
with that
found not a lot
information?
of people.
Same, same.
Yeah.
Like it's
It's
an
very
interesting,
dangerous information. People
yeah,
are insane.
yeah, it's an interesting thing for me because I'm so proud of what I do. You do learn that people take that information in very different ways. Like some people are like,
Yep.
"Oh, that's interesting, weird." And then the next question is always like, "Well, what do you write?" And then that's where things can get interesting.
Well, I've had people be like, "Oh, so you have mental health issues." And I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Well, you hear voices. That's how it works with authors." And it's like, "No, that's not how it
No,
works."
that's not how
Yeah,
that is for
that's
all of us.
that's kind of what I was talking about why I wanted to do the podcast. We've had a very normal conversation. Nobody has talked to an imaginary friend. Isn't that great? Because that's how
There's no one else in my head.
I had somebody like just a random person after I started like picking a fight about how much books cost and how stupid it is, and they're not going to feel guilty that they take the books when they cost that much. I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
yes.
so just because you decide that that's too much or whatever,
Mhm.
go, you know what? I think that Oscar Mayer makes too much money. Do you agree? You agree? Okay, go into the grocery store and
Right.
just take some hot dogs.
Mhm.
See how that works out for you. It's the same concept. You don't get to decide that this is too much and you shouldn't feel guilty about it, or it's not stealing if it's not a physical product. It's just an ebook. That
Right.
is my hard work. You know what? I think you make too much as whatever position you do. Give some of it to me,
Right.
or you get a reduction in your salary. That's not for anybody else to judge.
Yeah, no, I firmly believe that when people who pirate books or read pirated books try to defend it, I don't actually think any of them believe what they're saying. Maybe that's just me, but I'm like, I really firmly believe that all of them know that they're stealing. They just don't give a fuck. And that's far less of an enticing argument to be like, listen, I know it's wrong, I don't care. Than it is to be like,
See,
well,
I
but this and that or whatever. I don't think any of them actually believe it. Like, do you really think they believe, you know what I mean? Like, they
I
know.
think a handful do, and I will tell you that there is one other handful that I was once a part of. I was broke AF.
Mhm.
I was skipping meals and starving, and I actually okay, so in my defense, it was in my defense, it was framed as a library site, and this is years and years ago.
Uh,
So it wasn't like as prevalent of knowledge now.
right.
I honestly thought it was a library site, and when I found out that I was actually pirating,
Mhm.
when I got money again, I went and bought all the books that I had downloaded. I felt so horrible. But I've had fans say that to me, like I was broke in college
Uh-huh.
or I was broke whenever and I was depressed and I did it. I downloaded your books but I went back and I bought them. And I'm
Well, that's
like,
fine. Yeah,
that's no shade. We all make mistakes. We all do stupid, you know. I
exactly.
if it helped you get out of your depression, if it helped you get out whatever, I would have given it to you for free. Like thank you for
Right.
admitting that. Thank you for going back and doing the right thing.
Mhm.
But you're right. The ones who try to defend it are the ones who are like, you make enough money. And
Mhm.
I sit here and go, don't tell me that I have so much money or I'm doing better, I'm doing
Yeah.
good enough. Like, don't judge that because, yeah. So I agree with you that most of it is bull.
Yeah, and I think at the beginning, like you said, it was like the Wild West. People didn't know what the fuck was up. Or people, like you said,
Oh, yeah.
it's easy to think you're on a website that's innocent and not really understand that what's
That is not
happening,
really a library.
yeah, is
Yeah.
not on
You're
the up
just
and up type of deal.
how about we all just play fair in the sandbox? And I know I sound really immature saying that, but
No,
call me
it's not immature, but like it's so
naive that I would want the world to be that way, I guess.
it's idealistic, like in a good way, because that's how it should be. But like it's just
Yeah.
sad that our world doesn't. There's just there's such a sense of entitlement when it comes to certain things, and books are one of them, and access to certain kind of books is, an issue where people just feel entitled to kind of do whatever they want and
Yeah.
not care about, or just say to themselves, oh, well, it's just, $5 or it's just
Yeah.
this or it is, but like it is, it does impact us on the other side in ways that people either don't know or don't give a fuck about. And that it's hard to hear that. It's hard to know that,
Yeah.
like you said, somebody
I've known
stole.
authors that have quit because their books were getting so pirated and they were making so little on them
Exactly.
that they're
Exactly.
like, it's just not mentally healthy. And so I've said to people, like, you want to know why some of your favorite authors quit? This is why. They're
Right.
tired of getting stolen
Mhm.
from.
It's such a privilege to be able to say, okay, well, I'm doing okay. So as much as piracy sucks,
Yeah.
it's not destroying me. And it's
Yeah.
such a privilege to be able to say that. And there's the other side of the coin of far too many authors who aren't doing okay and are
Yep.
really struggling and sacrificing to follow their dreams just to have it like just kind of ripped away in this really cruel way by people who just have no empathy and compassion for that struggle and like that hard work and what it takes to like put books out there. And I think in the indie community, it's really diverse in the sense that you can have indies who are like fucking making more money than trad pub authors are and just killing it
Yeah.
in every possible fucking way. And you can have indies who are, writing from their fucking car on their phone. Like there's such a huge difference, and
Yeah.
yet the reader sees everyone as equal, and that's not the reality. Like, it is a intense struggle for a lot of people. It is a sacrifice for a lot of people, and it's not for some, and it is
Yeah.
a privilege for some. And it's just you don't know who you're fucking with, and it's just sad
Yeah.
like when you watch authors who are really just working so hard to get their stuff out there and it's not hitting the way that they'd hoped or you would expect as like a friend or something, and then they're also getting tagged on the piracy front, and then just all of that shit, it just adds up. And like you said, when you see people quit or walk away from the industry because it's brutal,
Yeah.
it's sad, it's hard, especially because we
Yeah.
lose really talented people who have special voices and write like kick-ass shit, and but like the behind the scenes stuff is too much sometimes, and like you get it.
I had a friend when I was starting out that she was like a cult classic favorite between pirators. She would get like hundreds of thousands the moment her book was released, especially because they weren't even like digitally locked from the
Mhm.
publisher or anything.
Right.
The moment it would release, she'd have like 100,000 downloads
Yep.
on one pirate site in that week, but
Mhm.
sell like 100 books off the publisher site.
Yep.
She's like, even if I could get 10% of that, 10% I could quit my day job.
Right.
Just 10%.
Yep.
And you're like, and she was just like, I can't. It's not good for my mental health. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you argue with that? You can't. You have to
No.
do it. So I've had people really harshly judge me for turning a blind eye to it. And it's like, look, I would love to be David, but I am at the end of the day, not David doesn't always win against Goliath.
No.
You're never what am I going to do against somebody in a foreign country who is not held to any law? And I'm
No.
spinning my wheels filing these reports, getting these DMCAs filed to it pop up somewhere else and them laugh at me.
Yep. It takes me days to get something potentially taken down just for it to immediately come back up.
Yep. And you could have been writing.
Exactly.
Until somebody else up higher up the food chain really gives a crap and sees that they need to be protecting us like they should be instead
Mhm.
of their conspiracy theories or fighting that Twitter was mean to Republicans or
Right.
whatever that bullshit.
Whatever gaslighting topic is trying to get shoved down our throats so we don't pay attention to other shit.
I want to give a big thanks to Ivy Asher for joining me for such a fun conversation. Also, to all of our fans for checking this podcast out. I hope you liked what you heard and decide to stick around. Please make sure to subscribe to the Fat Books podcast on YouTube or Spotify or that little purple icon on your Apple device. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook to stay up to date on who we're recording with and when episodes are coming out. There's also a Patreon if you want to support the podcast and keep it going. Thanks for staying until the end and hope you enjoyed it.